host, Alicia Morales, and this is a new episode for In Her Details, a podcast focusing on revitalizing the family cell, bringing back tradition to our homes, focusing on our values and this cultural crisis that we are seeing all over the world. Today, I have a special episode with John Morales and Jose Morales. This is an exciting episode because we want to focus on the role of a man. We want to focus on the role of a man in his career path, in his journey of faith, in fatherhood, and so many other topics of the role of a man. Welcome, John Morales and Jose Morales. It's great to have you here today. Both brothers, yes. But tell us, to start off the conversation, we're going to have a dialogue. Just to, from the very beginning, maybe even your younger years, and your journey of just a short, brief, um, you know, description of that journey of faith from your father, as well, his example, his role, what you both saw at home.
Okay. Well, I guess you go first. Okay. First, I want to thank you, Alicia, for having us here through Imago Day. And I would like to start off by saying that, yes, I had a very good example during my childhood through my father because he did play a role as a father and as a good husband and an extreme good example of how fatherhood, manhood, and all the hoods should bring about the model person in a household. I remember growing up, and my mother was employed in a school district in the cafeteria to where she had to work at early hours of the day. And my father took over the mother role as well as the father role. So he did breakfast for us. He he fundamental stuff, just like tying our shoes. We were, at a very young age, and even making lunch for us and taking us to school, bringing us back from school, and doing all the motherhood roles that a mother does. But at the same time, he had to comply with the father roles that it was required to sustain a household. So I had a very good upbringing in that regards. I guess another um, aspect that I recall from my father, and he passed away, by the way, and I do recall him on a daily basis. And every time I do wake up in the morning, I recall his jokings with me because it was never a dull morning where he would wake us up to confront our obligations. It was always a joking type of a early start of the day. He would always name neighbors. As a kid, I had a neighbor by the name of George, and he would always tease myself and a brother of mine that George is coming. George is knocking on the door. That was our cue to already have gotten up from bed. So instead of, very using disciplinary words or actions, he would very much joke with us. So what I'm getting at is the beginning of the day began with a smile, and at the end of the day, it was very similar. So I never had any um, friction, if you will, with my father. There was never a um, punishment. I heard that from my friends that there was always punishment in the corner. Go to the corner, you're grounded. All of those things never existed in my childhood, and to a certain extent, when I was growing up, I kind of felt left out because my friends, all of the majority of them, shared these common traits. Go to the corner, go to your room, you're grounded, no more driving for a week, no more bicycling. I mean, all of the above. And in my life as a child, I never had that. I never knew what it was to be grounded. I never knew what it was to go to a corner for 15 minutes or so. I never knew what it is to be secluded from driving. I never knew about punishment. In other words, my dad, I think he never told me, but through actions, he did tell me that he didn't believe in uh, punishment. He believed in teaching. So
So,
right.
so no, because no, yeah, okay, sorry.
Okay. So that was
Got technical.
oh.
Yeah.
So there was no. So it was just a very direct and very fun way of growing up, and so that was it. That was my childhood in a nutshell.
Jose, you are the eldest of the brothers, correct?
Yes, yes.
So I think maybe now sharing your journey as well. I mean, to begin with, because you walked also with your father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you both are how many years apart?
6.
6.
And see, so it was just a matter of also maybe growing up. How was that? Was it different or?
No, it was pretty much. My brother just described it very, very well. Excellent. He That was the expression that my father did, is an expression of love. So in a nutshell, what my brother described was an expression of love, and so uh, by the way my father expressed himself, I guess the 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 attitude that he followed was the attitude, I guess, that Saint Joseph, uh, uh, the way Saint Joseph carried out his role as a father. Uh, and where did Saint Joseph obtain that? Well, I guess in his faith in in God, and he was the one who had to take the role of leading his family to wherever the Holy Spirit was telling him to do. So I think my father did part of that. Um, as a matter of fact, it was kind of, well, I mean, kind of funny in the sense that earlier this morning we were talking with my mother about that.
Yes.
Uh, Earlier this morning, I didn't tell you that, but we were talking about the way my mother um, was describing another situation, but um, we came to the conclusion that my father really sacrificed himself for his family, and he did well. I mean, he did fine in the sense that he did sacrifice. He could have survived in his previous way of living in Mexico. He could have survived. He could have also continued to give us a good life, but the circumstances brought us to the United States, and which is fine. And my mother is happy. We are happy, but it was my father's sacrifice that 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 brought us really here, that maintained us here. Because otherwise, if he would have said, you know what, how do they say it? I throw the towel and forget it. Let's go and let's move out of here. Because he didn't know the language, and it was very difficult for him to really look for work. His 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 he was a mechanic in refrigeration, so he had that trade, and he was able to survive very well in Mexico following his trade. And when he came here, he had to stop working in that trade, and he went to working. He started working as a
Trailers,
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 camping trailers, putting them together
the
and
field.
in the fields and what else, putting furniture together, things that he wasn't totally out of his line of work, and but he did it, and but he was continuously in prayer. Actually when we came here at it was at 5 or 6 p.m., something like that. The rosary was we were praying the rosary. I don't know if you remember praying the rosary when we used to live in Laverne.
Yes,
And
I do recall.
yeah, and at 6 p.m., something like that, we would. It was on the radio.
Hmm.
It was on the radio. As a matter of fact, it was. Well, I don't remember the name of the priest that he was from Irapuato, from where we are as well. And but anyway, we would pray the rosary. It was his his discipline, but a discipline with love, to say it's time for prayer as a family. So we would kneel in front of the crucifix, and in their bedroom, in my parents' bedroom, and and pray and pray. So that was a family. Of course, we were a big family. We were a family of nine. Uh, well, eight because one passed away, and so we were left at eight. We're surviving, and the sisters were already. Two of them were already married. Others were in school or already in other activities, and so but it was my brothers and myself and my mother that my father would, let's pray, time for prayer, and we would be praying the rosary. So yes, as my brother already described, that was the activity that we had.
And it seems like no matter what the difficulties, right, that he was probably going, because many of us as children, when we're kids, well, we're not aware of the problems that are going on at home, what mom and dad are going through. We see a happy family as children. Who knows? We don't know about payments. We don't know about what parents are going through, or the financial difficulties. I mean, you are aware of certain difficulties, but not to the extreme extent. What they're going through. Like, how are we going to figure this out? How are we going to pay rent at this time? So what I see is that Christ was always the center of the family.
If I may add to what Jose, my brother, is saying, and what you're saying, Alicia, yes, you're right. But when we saw, or at least I want to share something with a trait that my father had, we would go to parties, family parties, or friends' parties, whatever party or endeavor that we would get involved in. My father was part of a nocturnal adoration, and which met once a month, which consisted of going to the church and meeting with the rest of the members on a Saturday evening, say 9 p.m., and we would have a meeting, and then we would do prayers, and then we would. I guess there were assignments of a groups of 3 or 4 that would have to get up and pray in front of the altar, or in the altar, I should say, in front of the crucifix, um, starting at midnight. So from midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning, a group of men, it was only men, uh, would pray from 12 to 1, and then they would go back to bed. And then from 1 to 2, another group would go. So that's the consistency of that particular uh, membership. But what attracted me was that wherever we were as a family, my father would, even if he was having fun with friends or family, even if he was drinking alcohol, even if he was, whatever he was doing, came 8 o'clock in the evening, he would say, "We're leaving," because of the nocturnal adoration that is today. I mean, and of course, like you said, I mean, we're kids, we don't know, or we don't appreciate the values of life when we're young or younger. But my father said, "Let's go." It meant let's go, and he always gave priority to that nocturnal adoration, which he made us a part of that membership as well. But my point, I guess, what I'm trying to bring home is that sometimes, even if you're distracted with family, friends, or a Super Bowl, or a birthday party, or in a fancy restaurant, if it comes to meeting that commitment once a month because of this nocturnal adoration, he even received a diploma at or a certificate at the end of his term,
His recognition.
recognition that he was, because his name was Constantino. They even nicknamed as Constant. He was very constant. He never he never flickered. He was just very constant, and he got recognized for that. I just wanted to put
Yes,
that in.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because yes, that consistency of prayer is so important, and we're going to get more into that. How about both of you? Well, both of you have your, in your educational roles, right? You both have your career, your degree, and you probably started working before you or during your career path, right? Because one, well, we know Saint Joseph also as a provider, right? And the man's role, and a family role, right? Providing for your family. Um, so that discernment, right, or that journey there as young adults, young men, to in your college years, how was that?
Take it.
Don't fight for the mic.
Well, it was, my parents.
Or the encouragement also from your parents also.
Yes, that was definitely the beginning. Uh, it was in the family. It was always both my mother and father always had the encouragement. They always would tell us, "You have to study. You have to be someone in life." But they never told us to be someone in the sense of being a millionaire, getting rich with and and, uh, and something to exaggerate. No, no, just you have to be someone. You have to be someone so you can have a better life.
Mm.
And so they would always encourage the encouragement was always there, and it was an encouragement again with love, an encouragement with faith. It wasn't just you have to study, and otherwise you're going to be as they would say in Spanish, you're going to be, va a ser un burro, si no estudias.
Yeah.
And no, no, they would always encourage us.
Sorry, I just heard it in my grandfather's tone. Okay, yeah. Spoiler.
But anyway, so we were there listening to those words of encouragement. Of course, after the encouragements, you had to have the willingness to study, and we the three of us, the three boys, all there's another brother, Constantino.
In the middle.
That's not here.
Not here, but
But but the three of us and the girls too, everybody got the same encouragement to study. Others didn't want to study. Well, that's fine. I mean, each one of them has their own decision, but the words of encouragement were there. So anyway, the after we decided to after we chose the path of improving ourselves and going to after high school and going through college, my father was always there, and and in whatever things he could help us, he would be there to help us. There was a point where the the material was too complicated and he didn't know anything about. But anyway, he was there to support us, and so we always had that encouragement, that support. And
And I think he was also very inspiring and very supportive of being hands-on, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that we unfortunately don't see it nowadays today, especially with technology, how it's advancing. And where I'm going with this is that you know um you know a drill, or carrying something. Now we look for the easy way out. And but what I you know see is that he was very hands-on as well and very supportive
If I
in
can,
action.
if I can elaborate on that, Elisa, yes, he was very hands-on, sometimes too much hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember being, I think
Innovative.
I was maybe 10 years old or 11, and in fourth grade, fifth grade, I can't recall. And there was a science project
Mm.
that we all, as a class or individually, I should say, had to build some kind of flashlight. And I told my father about the project, and it was supposed to be simple, or the use of simple items like from the 99-cent store. Back then they didn't exist, but I mean the equivalent of the 99-cent store back then. But my father went out of his way to make me a mercury switch flashlight. A mercury switch like is used in the walls for thermostats.
Mm.
So he elaborated by using a PVC pipe, and then he inserted the mercury switch inside with electrical tape. So I guess to make it simple, to make it work, and then he put a little light bulb and connected it with wires to the mercury switch. So the way it worked, when you angled the flashlight, so you made the mercury flow from one point to the other. That made the contact to the wires, and therefore the light bulb turned on. So to turn it off, you would go the other way, and the mercury would flow the other way, and the light bulb would turn off. So yes, he would elaborate very much hands-on. Of course, during presentation day, nobody believed that I did. I was only 10 years old, and I think
You
so,
were already using mechanical engineering
right,
terms.
yeah. Right.
No, yeah, no, and that's the beauty of uh, the role also of a man. Being hands on, the strong man, and and showing that example to his children, and especially men, right? To be showing that already that manhood at a very young age already with his innovation to you, right? Um, and well, in terms of also, the discernment already in your career path, right? Already in your college life, right? Because this goes out to many young men or men who are listening, right? When they're in their career path or in their journey of life, wherever they're at, wherever they're at in their vocation, right? Or discerning a vocation, not sure what vocation they're being called to, if priesthood, single life, or marriage, or just marriage and not fatherhood. It's always we never know what God calls each one of us in our vocation of life. But knowing that, because you both are married, um, you know, how did you know, or your role, your purpose in life?
As a married person, you mean
Or the when you felt, the call
call
to
for, yes. Well, I guess it's like everything or anything else that you first like the person, and then of course as time goes on you start you know, converting it that like to love, etc. Everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
the pattern. But I think that, I guess, the discernment, like you said, or maybe a word of advice that personally, I guess, would be to be be who you are, be yourself. Don't try to imitate others. Be natural, because that has a positive consequence. Um, your I guess your girlfriend, who will be your spouse in the future, what I think what she is looking for is you as a man, not that you are, you can go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and scare a thief. She doesn't really want to feel what the spouse or even your kids or your society, your friendship, everybody that you are engaged with, what they are looking for in you is security
Mm.
and confidence. If you can portray security and confidence, by that I mean knowing exactly, in other words, when you do something, you got to do it right. And the way when to do something right is to be repetitive in doing it. Eventually, you're going to get good at it, and maybe perfect. Um, it's interesting that you mentioned Saint Joseph, and what is really healing, I guess, to know is that the attitude that Jesus Christ had at birth until his death at 33 years of age, his attitude was a lot influenced by his father.
Mm.
That's very pleasing, because whatever Saint Joseph did, I'm sure that Jesus's attitude and personality had a lot to do with Saint Joseph. And so, getting back to what I was saying about being good at what you do, I'm sure that Saint Joseph talked in a loving way, as we were talking since the beginning of this interview. Very loving, very peaceful, and very mild way of communicating between the father and son.
Mm-hmm.
That's and if I can give an example, like my brother says, my father had limitations because he did not go to school. He was a service refrigeration technician, and he could not help us when my brother and I were at college. And but what I saw, as far as examples or teachings from my father in college, or growing up in school, in a school environment, I did not get that much. But what I got, my examples, was from him, from my older brother, Jose. I'll give you a very specific example. Of course, he's 6 years older than I am, so he was already in high school and I was still in grade school. But I remember he must have been like a sophomore or a junior in high school, and I was fourth grade, whatever. And he would be very studious. Back then, there was typewriters. There was no such thing as computers, and he wrote like a 10-page report. And he had a desk. We shared the same bedroom there, the three of us. And the desk, I think it was his because he was the oldest. And he put his completed report on the desk, and he went out to play or wherever he went. It was done. It was due tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I remember we had a shelf, and I was short in those days, and so in order for me to reach a toy, I think it was a toy that I had left in the top shelf, I couldn't reach it, so I stepped up on the desk, and very distractively, I stepped all over his report.
Oh.
Without me knowing, I didn't know that I was tearing it up. I was, making the effort of.
And it wasn't even saved on the desktop.
No,
No, that's
there was no. Right. So, yeah, right. So getting back, I went, and all of a sudden I heard from behind my brother sighing, like a very nervous sigh,
Oh.
like, oh my God, like,
Mhm.
and I heard him say, my report. And I looked down at my feet, and his report was all stepped on and torn, and, you know,
Mhm.
and I just closed my eyes, waiting for a hit. I was like, I must have been maybe 9. He was like 15, 16. I said, here it comes. How does it feel to be hit by a 16-year-old? I'm about to feel it right now. I just closed my eye and kind of like shivered. Here it comes. It's going to come. And I felt his 2 hands on my waist. And I said, well, okay, I'm not feeling anything. No hit. And I just felt that he carried me from where I was on the desk very gently. And instead of throwing me to the bed, he put me on the bed. He sat me there. And instead of scolding me or, he calling me whatever, his priority was his report, not so much punishing me. I'll never forget that. I don't know if the roles were reversed, how I would have reacted. I don't know. I'll never know. But my brother taught me that. You see, and so it not only comes from fathers, it not only comes from grandfathers, but from older brothers as well, or even younger brothers. And his priority, like I said, was the report, and I'll never forget that.
But that's that's
I don't know if you remember.
that's the influence from generation to generation.
Right?
Yeah. I guess so.
Because it started from the top, from
Yeah.
grandfather,
Yeah.
from
Right.
from your father.
I think so. I think that it comes from the father, from our father, and because it's it is one time my father told me to that since he lost his father when he was 16, yeah, and so he was left without a father, and I remember he told me one of the way I continued my education, my it was by attending mass, going to mass, and also reading the book of Pro,
Proverbs.
Proverbs,
Mhm.
yeah, and
Proverbs 31,
uh,
probably.
probably, but that's where he continued his education, and so it was a way of living through the Word of God, and going back again to Saint Joseph. Saint Joseph, like my father had, well, Saint Joseph was a carpenter. My father was a first generation mechanic. So going back a little bit as to the hands-on, that's why he was hands-on, the same way as Saint Joseph went hands-on, but he was always attentive to where how to guide his family hands-on again, using his hands, using his whole body
to wear out.
exactly, and because there are many memories that we have as a family, and maybe we as men uh, better than the girls, because we worked with him. We we saw his hands, how those hands were working for us. Were working for us. I mean, there were rooms, cold rooms like this one. I mean, well, this is not cold, but I mean, there were rooms.
Yeah, refrigerator.
Refrigerator walk-in boxes
Uh-huh.
where it was really cold, and of course he would wear some protective gear and all that, but nevertheless, it was very difficult to work with gloves. So sometimes he would have to take the gloves off in order to put
Screw.
a screw, because it was a small screw and you you couldn't fit the screw with the gloves on, so you had to take off your gloves but your hands would freeze right away because it was a very cold situation, very cold atmosphere in there, and but and we would do it as well. We would be with him, but I mean, I'm focusing on his hands, on his sacrifice that he did. Uh, those hands were hands that worked for his family. Those hands, when he passed away, I remember seeing his hands, and I'm still seeing those hands. Uh, I mean, for me, those are loving hands, hands that hands that embraced his family,
His faith.
his faith, and his faith was the one that gave him the strength to do that. And so that's where I guess that I mean, if we're going to portray it or to transfer a message, I guess our message would be sacrifice that comes along with love.
Right.
I guess it's a sacrifice that comes with love. So I guess it's that's what we're trying to do with our family as well, and that's where we are trying to communicate to others that yes, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult.
Mm.
To younger generations. You're going to go through a lot, but if you do it with love, time's going to go by. You know, time is going to pass anyway. So if you do it with love, it will pass much easier, much, what would you call it, softer, without that much. Even if it hurts, God is going to protect you, to give you strength, so you won't feel that much pain. Somehow the Holy Spirit works that that you keep going, and all of a sudden 30, 40 years went by, and oh, what happened? Where are they? They're gone.
Yeah. And especially today that we see, I mean, the way the world is right now, where we see broken families. We see the father figure not at present at home, or vice versa. I mean, the mother figure as well. Or, there's no Christ-centered family, right? It's just, or we're now influenced by technology, where we're all, focusing on our phones, on what's going on, and I don't know, the celebrities, and we're not bringing even the cultural crisis. Like, I mean, we see less families even at church, less people at church as well, or praying together, and the fatherhood that's not being playing his role at home in like we would see, or like many of us have seen, right? The father figure at home. I shared in one of the episodes an experience that I had with one of my students where, yes, I asked, I asked a question, and he said, I wish my father was home. And just to see that to hear him broke my heart. And definitely, it's like, wow, these children, these young teens, who's going to, show them the manhood? Many are going to learn on their own, of course, but being influenced with what's going on in the world, and especially, I mean, with the changes, right? And not and not having a relationship with Jesus, especially. And we have our role model. I mean, Saint Joseph. We have the so many saints with so many lives. That what they went through, or even I think Saint John Paul II's parents are about to be also consecrated. I mean, they're going to be canonized. Sorry. Yeah, canonized. So imagine his, his parents about to be canonized, and he's a saint, and that also, how amazing. But in the fatherhood, you know, what you probably both experienced a couple of maybe frustrating moments or difficulties and stuff, and or different with working your daily lives, right? Work, having to provide for the family, listening to your wives, your children, homework, having to the different roles of the day, right, or parts of the day. How has that been for each one of you?
I mean, it's a juggling act,
Mm.
but but I think like everybody says, or most people say, or should say, that family comes or should come first. And I, in particular, yes, I have three boys and one girl. And yes, they are in college, my boys and
You have many St. Josephs in the making.
right. Yes. So yes, there's been times where it's either my job or help out in the homework for my kids, and what do I do, right? So yes, I mean I do prefer as much as I can, or to the extent that I am able to get away with, you know, sacrificing my job. I even maybe calling a day. I call my supervisor to ask for the day or a couple of days just to help out the kids, um, in their homework for an upcoming test that's about to, hit them.
Mhm.
So, um, you see, that type of sacrifice. I mean, 'cause, yeah, it's very easy, I guess, to say, well, because like you said, Alicia, there's many fathers that are absent in the life of kids, or some fathers that are not absent, but sometimes it would be nice if they were absent. What I mean by that is when the son or daughter hits 18 years of age, there are fathers that say, hey, you're 18, there's the door.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 18, I was out on my own. You're 18 now. It's your turn. I'm not about to work extra hours for your tuition. You want a college education? You go out and get it. You join the army. You join whatever you got to join, or you could do whatever you got to do, but do not count on me. You see?
Mm.
That to me is not fatherhood. Um, that to me is whatever it is, but not fatherhood. Because another thing, I guess, a pet peeve that as they say, is that 18-year-old that has become a nuisance for that father is the same kid that brought a smile to that father's face. It's the same kid,
Mm-hmm.
but 18 years later, now he's got a beard or a mustache, but it's the same kid. If you carried that kid in your arms 18 years ago and he brought a smile to your face as a father, why are you going to all of a sudden dispose of him? There's a door. You're 18. Get out. It's like chewing gum. Once the flavor is gone, you throw the gum away.
Yeah.
Why? You see, and that to me that's a no. That if somebody wants to, or somebody's going through that experience, um, I suggest to reflect and apply all the principles that we are talking about in this interview with respect to what love is and what Saint Joseph has done to Jesus or with Jesus, and come about as a father, because once you start the role as a father, it never ends. Even if your son or daughter is 40 years old, there is no age limit to where you say, I don't need my father anymore. There is no such thing. You're going to need your dad regardless of the age that you are or will be.
Mhm.
I think so. I definitely agree with that statement and or with that description. In my case, it's only one daughter, and but it was the same principle. The same principle applied to one or to five or six. It's the same principle. It's. I mean, if you don't apply that uh, fatherhood, you're gonna miss. You're gonna miss out on a lot. Um, it's something. It's a blessing. It's a joy, and I don't know how you can like my brother says. I don't know how you can dispose after that young boy or young girl or that baby brought smiles or happenings to a home. All of a sudden, you're out. No,
Mhm.
I don't think that's correct either. So let's enjoy life. Enjoy it as a family. Bring out the true meaning of the word family,
Mhm.
and it's not going to last forever.
No.
It's not going to last forever, and let's enjoy it.
Yeah. And I mean, also the leading of example as father and mother, as a a marriage, right? As a family, as a home, and especially I love how it sounds in Spanish, hogar, right? Um, the family, you know, what mark or what are you leaving? I mean, especially men and women as well, but focusing on manhood right now is lead or fatherhood, leading your family to heaven, right? Um, God wants us all to return to His kingdom, right? And well, take your family together to heaven. Take your spouse to heaven, right? And that's the perseverance, and it's the when you abandon your child or your family, it's like, whoa, you're abandoning that precious pearl that you have to return to the Father. And it's but sometimes there's life experiences that do. Yeah.
If I may elaborate on what you just said, Alicia, you bring a very good point because you're right. Um, God our Father, I think that we are given our spouses not by luck. I don't think it's an accident. I think that God our Father has put him or her in our path,
Mm.
as well as the kids that come about from that marriage. And you're right. We are going to be responsible for answering Jesus Christ when we die as to what you did with your spouse. What did you do with this woman or this man that I gave you for X amount of years? Also for the kids, I gave you one kid, I gave you four kids, I gave you X amount of kids. What did you do with them? I gave them to you as an assignment for you to lead them into heaven.
Hmm.
Did you do that? If you, if we're still, I mean, we're still here um, in life. So I guess the take home would be to, um, just relay the message to the fathers out there to keep that in mind. That as a father, um, you're a figure that you are responsible for your family. It's up to the father to coordinate his wife and kids to line them up in a straight line or as much as possible a straight line towards God. And nothing's a straight line. I mean, life is, full of angles. But nevertheless, I think God has given us the capacity and the intelligence to rectify any lines that not be straight. We have that ability. God has given us the intellect. So I don't think there are any excuses. Yes, we do get tired. Yes, we do. Life comes about, but nevertheless, we still are responsible to answer to God as to what we did with our human being assignment.
Mhm.
That's a very, very, it's a very big task.
Mhm.
It's not an easy task, but we are aware of it. When we get married, we sometimes maybe we become aware of it after a few years. Maybe when we're getting married, we might not look at it that way. But it is that is
Big commitment.
the commitment. That is a commitment
The commitment.
to 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 uh, to lead the family to completion,
Mm-hmm.
and or completion would be to heaven,
Mm-hmm.
or at least to purgatory.
Nothing less than that.
The aim is heaven.
But the aim is heaven.
To our listeners, the aim is heaven.
Yeah. Yes, that's the main thing. Heaven is Christ.
Absolutely.
That's the main thing. But it's yeah. Hopefully, younger generations are realize that the sooner the better,
Yes.
because it is that's the goal. That's the goal.
And like Jose is saying, he's right. I think we or the couples, the young couples that are starting out dating right now, I mean, we all go through it. I mean, when we meet somebody, I mean, we're very, excited about that other person. We go to the park, we go to Disneyland, we go to theme parks, we go to restaurants, we do all kinds of fun things, but very rare do couples go to retreats, religious retreats. How many people that are dating actually go to a retreat that will, um, I guess, will receive guidance as to how to live a life when they get married? I didn't do it. To be frank, I didn't. When I was dating my wife, did I go to a retreat? No, I was in Disneyland. I was in all these theme parks that I think most people, nightclubs and this and that, and we're just out there to have fun. So we kind of leave the most important thing last. Oh, we'll take care of it later and later, and that later may never come.
Mm.
Hopefully it comes, but sometimes it never comes.
You
But
know what? It doesn't mean that we cannot do it now. I
right,
mean, younger couples right now, I mean, of course they can go out and have fun, but now we have to take advantage. Now we have to take advantage of this new form of communication.
Mhm.
This new form of communication is really what we're doing to communicate to other younger people. Do this. Don't forget about God. Don't forget about your principles, and go out, have fun, of course, but then come back a little bit
Mhm.
mhm,
and take a break. Now start thinking about what you're doing, where you're going, where do you want to take your girlfriend after marriage, you know, which is the goal again, heaven. And
And I think where we go is that we're forgetting to include God in our relationship, to have a godly relationship,
right,
or sometimes we think, especially, I mean, this could probably be another episode, but when you start, asking God, to for your spouse or for a man or a woman, right, that you want to date, uh, that they're also pursuing the same, or at least going the same direction, pursuing God,
mhm,
right? That you're chasing after God's heart together, because that also has to do a lot. That they're also, your same religion, right? Or and also practicing, your faith, practicing their faith, because if not, you're not going to, coordinate on the same way, have that communication, because that's part of the communication. I mean that, communicating with one another is very important, and that I'm sure, in a marriage, it has to be even more important. The communication between husband and wife, right?
exactly. Yeah, and when I was saying about theme parks and whatnot, yes, I'm not discouraging not to go. Like Jose said, yes, but yes, like he says, you have to sometimes pit stop and retract and then go out and have your fun. That's true. You're right. And like you say, Alicia is also, I do agree that yes, you have to now, start doing it, or have that as a common denominator, right? Both of you, both the wife and the husband have to have that as a given. That's a given, both of you. If you don't have it, well, let's get it. Let's get that as a common, because in the future, if God's going to bring kids to your relationship, it will be a broken home, or very likely to be a broken home if the father is too religious, but the mother is not, or vice versa. Let's baptize the son. Oh, why do we have to do it? Or,
Yeah.
so there's some disagreement. So you're right, Elisa. Both of them have to start with that commonality since the beginning.
From the very beginning. Well, are there any final thoughts or any final comments for the role of a man that you both would like to give?
Well, I would like to just say that
Don't fight for the mic.
that's the theme tonight, right? I would just like to say, Alicia.
Disclosure. Or no, actually, let me just say a comment. Today's episode was interviewing, or the episode topic was to have a dialogue with my uncle John and my father Jose, well, who's here. And yes, this is the conversation we're having today. But definitely, both play a humongous role. I mean, I don't want to make this an episode talking about them both. There's so many stories that we could share about my grandfather, right? But yes, definitely, I am witness because I do have a lot of memories with my grandfather, right? And the whole family does, and about him in action, and his sacrifice, his love, his role as a father. I'm witness of it. Absolutely. And his faith above it all. When we had a family party, at my aunt's house, he would first go to mass before the party. Even if he was the last one to arrive, but he would first attend mass and then the family gathering. And that I clearly, vividly remember that.
And Jose can attest to this as well, because him and I worked with him, like he said earlier, during summer times. He would have at least 15 calls. He would be self-employed, and before the day started, he would have mass, or he would go attend mass, even if that meant mass ending at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the day was consisting of at least 15 calls. You see, but mass was always a priority.
Yes, yes. Even at the adoration,
Right.
that too. Like you said, that always came first. God was always first.
Always.
God was always present. Uh, and something that wasn't, we didn't, or wasn't mentioned at my grandparents' house, there was always a priest friend staying over. That was also another one. My grandfather never missed a mass, even a morning mass, right?
Yeah.
And I was a student at St. Alfonso's then in elementary school. And at 8 o'clock mass,
Right.
he was always there. They would take us to mass on, I don't remember if it was Wednesday or Fridays, but he was always there. He was the lector there. And yeah, you would see him there. And then I do remember also that sometimes when I didn't have, or I would get out early, or we would go to mass, and then to the house, to my grandparents' house, and a priest would always arrive to have breakfast too.
Mhm.
That was something too, and I could hear the pan when he would open the cabinet and pull out the pan oil, and he would start breakfast immediately, immediately until the last day. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
And yeah, I think because we see this the family cell today that is hurting, right? We see our culture also hurting in our homes, in the world, in our countries, where a lot of traditions are, well, dying. You know, our yes, Catholic traditions, our holiday traditions that have to do with our faith as well. You know, when and so we still see it, yes, but sadly,
They're
you know, they're dying.
diluting
They're diluting, yes,
or dying.
and especially my generation, you know, because I see my high school friends or elementary school friends, or in general, uh, the way they are forming, and I'm no one to judge. I'm not saying. I'm just um, observing, right, or in general, that are being so influenced by society today, by social media, and their children have no formation of faith, have no formation of love for thy neighbor. There's no respect for the elderly. There's no love for the elderly. You know, and thankfully, our family has seen it since the very beginning, since day one. And everyone has, you know, every family is different, but I've seen it uh, to where I see it with my generation, or you know, with my cousins, where we have a good time when we have our family gatherings, and you know, and we return back to our grandmother's, you know, our grandparents' house, where I remember, you know, now we don't fit, but at my grandma's house, but Christmas parties, or there's no parking now, but but yeah, it's you always, you know, the family cell. It was always, yeah, strong.
And I agree, Alicia, with what you're saying because yes, unfortunately, your generation, I think, have lost the the interest of having kids. I think as a world, the population is slowly but surely decreasing. And then I guess recently I shared with Jose on the internet. I saw a article that they want to replace caregivers with robots. So to take care of the elderly, you see, and robots, AI is coming and the technology, and they're taking care of, you know.
Don't get me started on that one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening.
Oh wow.
But you know what the way we are remembering our father, it's it's great. But do we want to be remembered as well in the same
Absolutely.
manner?
Mhm.
So because our time will come, we're 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 at an age where we can still talk the way you are interviewing us, or we are following this dialogue, and but I mean, in 20 years, we will be this. We're not going to be the same. So in 20 years, we'll go by quickly before we know it, and that's where we're going to be start saying, did we do the right thing? Are we going to be remembered like my father has been remembered, or is being remembered? That's the thing
And this reminds me of something that Father Pat has always, you know, in his homilies has always said about Mother Teresa, right? And he uses his fingers. What you did for the least of your brothers, you did it to me.
Mhm.
And that goes perfectly with how do we want to be remembered,
Yeah.
right? Because the influence, you know, from the very beginning now to both of you, and now now it's our generation, your kids, right? To what are seeing the example, because we're led by example of our fathers, of our parents. We're led by that example. Now it's us to put that to practice.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Jose just said, and he's right. How do we want to be remembered when we leave this world? I think that a take home would be live your life like if today's your last day.
Mm.
And I think that as you grow older, at least as I've grown older, that has pondered more in me than before. In other words, I guess like everybody else, you tend to take life for granted. But as you grow older, that saying to live your life like if today is your last day is kind of in front of you instead of on the side of you now.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's becoming a little bit more etched on your forehead.
Yes, yes, yes. One day we're here and one day we're not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's being etched on your
The other thing is that also, in order to when in order to also give recognition, I guess, to I know we're talking about parenthood or fatherhood.
Uh-huh.
Also, what helped was our mother as well.
Mm-hmm.
The patient that our mother had with my father or with our father, it was had a lot to do. It had a lot to do with the way he continued to act. It was well. I think I think you mentioned the help that my mother gave to my father was great. It helped him a lot because he had the cooperation of my.
They complemented
They complemented
each other very well.
And if I can elaborate on what Jose said, is I second what he said. I mean, 100% is very true. My mother, I mean, in one of the times that I went out to work with my father, I think this is a great example. It may be extreme. Most women probably won't do this, and I probably won't blame them, but it proves a point. One night I went to, I guess my father and I, we were working the whole day in the summer day out in a fish place in downtown LA, in Los Angeles. And to make a long story short, we got home. My father very depressed because the end result was very negative. He could not make a machine work, and he had promised the customer that the next day in the morning that machine would be working. And it was so many tons of ice scheduled to be arriving in the next morning. And my father was going to let down this particular customer because he was unsuccessful. But my point is that when we got home, like at midnight after working 14-hour days, my father and I both, I mean, we were full of grease, smelling like fish because it's a fish place. And we got home. My father was not talking at all. My mom was waiting for us like always. She wouldn't go to sleep. She wouldn't go to bed until we got home. And that evening we got home like at midnight. And my dad was super very tired. So was I, but he was just very tired. And I remember following him to his bedroom where my mom had the bed folded very nicely. There were white sheets, like brand new. I don't know if they were brand new or not, but at least they were recently washed. They were like linens that were ironed. And my dad, with shoes and all, he just fell on them, smelling like fish, stained with grease and oil. And he just fell on those white sheets. And I looked at my mom, like waiting for a response, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But my mom did. What did she do instead? Remove my dad's shoes. And she brought like a pail of water, warmed it up, helped him up to sit down on the side of the bed, put his feet on the water, rubbed his back, and asked him if he wanted to eat. And my dad wouldn't answer. But after a while, instead of my mom had the option of losing the patience because of the sheets and because of everything else. But no, she rubbed his back. She took his shirt off. And after that, I guess my dad felt a certain amount of obligation to at least answer, "Do you want to eat?" He said yes. So I guess my point is that that's an extreme. I mean, I don't. I mean, who would tolerate, or I don't know if it's a common thing to do. I don't know, but it happened in my household in front of me. I mean, my parents, the way that they got along, like you said, Alicia, I mean, the compatibility was there, the love was there, and it just engaged very nicely to where this is the way. That's why I guess they lasted 60 years. I just wanted to throw that story that it's just.
No,
That closest second.
that
Yeah.
closes everything. Oh my goodness.
And I asked my mom, Mom, why didn't you get mad like a day later or whatever? Oh, she said, linens have a solution to get cleaned up again, but your father's heart or whatever I'm going to hurt him by complaining will scar him forever. So,
And we were always thought, I would always take out my father's shoes when he would arrive, take out his shoes and put his
slippers.
slippers on. Yeah,
And
that was,
that's
that was a practice.
that's love.
And
Yeah.
Because I just it comes to my mind our Blessed Mother. You know, just right now that we passed Easter, when they were scourging Jesus, right? When they were whipping Jesus, when they were laughing at Jesus, as whipping, she was silent. She was quiet. Right? Her virtues are our Blessed Mother. Her virtues, right? But her silence. She could have thrown herself out in the crowd. Like stop. Stop everything, or started. Something, or screamed.
Mhm.
But no, she was silent. And that's, I think, where us women as well, we bring it to our Blessed Mother. That's where her role model
Mhm.
comes in our in action to us as well. And you could totally see it that my grandmother, she showed it.
Like the saying says, for every great man, there's a great woman behind him. I think that's a very true statement.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that we should have started with that. No, that's a beautiful ending. That's a beautiful ending. Or to end with that, because it's this journey from your childhood, from the beginning. Because even from the beginning, you weren't there where when your parents got married, but the journey from childhood to your young adult, to the discernment of your marriage, and then seeing the fatherhood, and even all these memories are that influence for your role as fathers. So I wanted to thank you both for joining today's episode. It was amazing. I have no words, right? Because I could vividly or see it, and it brings memories. And sometimes uh, I'm like, if I could have had more like conversations with my grandfather, right? Especially, and I actually had text one of my cousins today, because he had posted something on Instagram of he was visiting the cemetery, and I even told him, he posted, if only I could have had deeper conversations with you. If I was older, I could have had deeper conversations with you. And I was like, if I was older, or at least this age right now,
who said this?
Juan Alonso.
Oh,
Johnny. Yes. Yeah, he posted it on Instagram. And I even texted him, if I was 15 when my grandfather passed away. It was 3 months before my quinceañera.
Mm.
And of course, yes, I have lots of memories going to Mexico and so on. But I think there's conversations or there's things that have happened or my career, right, that I wish I could have, shared with him, because I think I could have had some conversations as well. I don't know. That's what I and I could go on, but definitely, I want to thank you both for joining me today.
Thank
It
you
was
for your invitation.
it was awesome. It was just, yes, last minute, but I said today's the day.
Thank you for that spontaneity, Alicia.
No,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
your professionalism
Oh,
and for the opportunity
no,
for
thank you.
giving us to express love
Oh.
for everybody else.
Oh no, thank you. And
you.
yes, this episode or this podcast is to revitalize the family cell. We need to continue encouraging our families, all the families out there, and especially our younger families. To continue persevering in faith and in love for one another, for your communities, forming communities, and just even your work life. Always bringing Jesus. To those moments. You never know. We're all called to be a mercy missionary, to spread God's word and to bring more people back to the church, because definitely we need to bring more people to our faith and to have faith in Jesus Christ, right? And to trust God. And remember to subscribe, yes, to our channel, to follow us on Instagram, Imago Dei Digital Ministry, at In Her Details as well. And you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and our Instagram, and our also our website. Check out our website and also our latest video on the Calvary Project. May God bless you, and I'll see you on the next episode. God bless.